Right, year 8, this video is your trial. So this is your number trial. I'm going to go over the questions because I'm not there in person to do it for you. So you can watch it and you can fast forward the bits you don't need. So this was the number trial. This was your first question. You had to put an equals or a not equals between the following. Well, 3 plus 5 is the same as 8, so it's equal. 6 minus 3 is 3. And 3 is not the same as 2, so we put a symbol like that. That just means not equal to. 6 times 8, hopefully you all knew, was equal to 48. 3 marks, 1, 2, 3. Now, question 2 talks about these crocodiles, as we call them. They're inequality signs. So remember, the crocodile is always going to eat the bigger one. So which one's bigger, 5 or 8? Well, 8 clearly bigger, so the crocodile eats 8. For these ones, if you find them confusing, it helps to have them have the same number of digits. So you can see here I've got 1, 2, 3 digits, and here I've only got 2. Because it's a decimal, I'm allowed to add as many zeros on the end as I like. So now looking at that number, which one's bigger, 30 or 3? Well, 30 is clearly bigger, so the crocodile's going to go that way. This one is up and down the number line. Now remember, negatives work the opposite to the positives, so minus 4 is bigger than minus 7. So those are the answers to those 3. Question 3. You weren't asked for the nth term, you were just asked to find the next 2 terms. So let's have a look and see what's happening. Well, the difference between here and here is 4. The difference between here and here is 4. The difference between here and here is 4. So all I'm doing is I'm adding 4 each time. 21 plus 4 is 25. 25 plus 4 is 29. Now 1 mark for this question, 1 mark for that one. Turning over, we need to share £22 between Ben and Mia in the ratio 6:2. Right, now I didn't teach this to you, Miss Saeed did, but I'm going to give you a way of doing it, which I think might have been how Miss Saeed did it. So 6 and 2 gives me a ratio of 8. So this is Ben, this is Mia, and this is the total. Now the total amount of money we've got is £32. Your question is, how do I get from 8 to 32? You are not allowed to add, you're only allowed to times or divide. Well, 8 times 4 is 32. And whatever I do to one side of my ratio, I do it to the other sides as well. So 6 times 4 means Ben gets £24. And 2 times 4 means Mia gets £8. So it would be 24 is to 8 is to 32. You can do a double check. Does 24 plus 8 equal 32? Yes, it does. 2 marks, 1 there, 1 there. However, if you get these both wrong and you somewhere wrote that it was a times 4, we would have given you 1 mark. Right, number 5, a factor tree. Now I'm going to do the factor tree for you because it says factor tree. But most of the time you'll be allowed to do a factor tree or a factor ladder. So I'll do the ladder for you as well in case you can't remember what the ladder is. Now remember, there are different ways of starting this one. So I can either put 42 as 6 times 7. It's my favorite times table, by the way. Or I can make it 21 times 2. Or I can make it 3 times 14. It doesn't matter which one. So you're either going to have this one, or this one, or this one. 7 is a prime number. 6 becomes 2 times 3. So there is a complete answer. 2 is a prime number. 21 is 7 times 3. There's a complete answer. 3 is prime. 14 is 2 times 7. There's a complete answer. Please notice they all have a 7, a 3 and a 2. And that's how you know you're right. So if you did the ladder, remember, we start with our prime numbers. So 2 goes into 42 21 times. 3 goes into 21 7. 7 goes into 7 once. 2, 3, 7. Exactly the same numbers. Now, how do we use those numbers to write a product of prime factors? Product means times. Prime factors is what we've just done up here. What are our three numbers? They are 2, 3, and 7. And I need to put times between them. There's no need to work this out because you should get 42 because that's where it came from in the first place. Order doesn't matter. You could have had 3 times 2 times 7 or 7 times 2 times 3. It doesn't matter, but it makes life easy if you've got this in smallest to biggest. 2 marks, so 1 mark would have been for getting your 2, 3, 7 and 1 mark for writing it out nicely. Right, the next one. We're asked to find the HCF of 42 and 60. Now remember, we already know that 42 is 2 times 3 times 7. We're going to do the same thing for 60. So on the side here, I'm going to do my factor tree. 60 I know is 6 times 10. 6 is 2 times 3. 10 is 5 times 2. So my 60 is a 2, a 3, a 5, and a 2. Then we went on to draw a Venn diagram. 42 I'm going to put on my left, 60 on my right. What goes in the middle is what's in both. I've got a 2 there and a 2 there. I put 2 in. You've got a 3 there and a 3 there. I pop a 3 in. Nothing else is the same. So if I wanted to finish my tree, my Venn diagram, here needs a 7 because I haven't used it up. And here needs a 5 and a 2. Pardon me. The HCF is the middle bit, which is 2 times 3, which is 6. If you knew that was the HCF, you'd get 3 marks anyway. But that's how you find it out. 1 mark for doing the tree, 1 mark for the Venn diagram, 1 mark for the answer. Question 7. This is BIDMAS. If you remember BIDMAS, I'm going to write it on the side here for us. It says we do the brackets first, then the indices, then the division, then the multiplication, then the addition, then the subtraction. So this is a multiplication. It gets done first. So we do 15 plus 7, which is 22. This one, we do the brackets first. 3 plus 7 is 10. 5 times 10 is 50. 1 mark for each one. Number 8. Now we haven't done much rounding, but this is a very important skill. 1 decimal place means 1 number after the dot. So there's the first number after the dot. All I'm going to look at is the number next to it on the right-hand side. If this number is 5 or bigger, that number changes. If it's not, this number doesn't change and this one vanishes. So in the first one, 4 is not big enough to change the 3, so it just stays 2.3. Be careful. If you stick a 0 on here, it's wrong. We're only allowed 1 decimal place, only 1 number after the dot. This, by the way, means approximately equal. This one, 34.88. I'm looking at the 8 as my digit. Next to it's an 8. 8's big enough to trigger this to become a 9. So that becomes 34.9. The 5 is big enough to trigger the 9, but the 9 turns into a 10. Now that means that this is going to become a 0 and I have to add 1 here. So it becomes 24.0. Here's the nasty bit. If you don't have the 0 here, you'll get it wrong, because we need 1 decimal place. Right, last page. Daniel, I hope you appreciated being in a math paper. Daniel puts 1.5 times as much money into a business as his partner Elsie. They both share the profit in the same ratio. How much of the 5,700 profit does Daniel get? Well, 1.5 times as much means 1.5 to 1. Now, you could have written this as 1.5 is to 1. But either way, you should realize that we're not supposed to have a decimal here. So how do I make 1.5 turn into a whole number? Well, I'm going to double it. We could have times it by 10, and that would have given me 15 is to 10, and then I could simplify. But in this case, I'm going to double it. That gives me 3 is to 2. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing we did before. That's Daniel, that's Elsie, and this is the total, which is 5. The total needs to become 5,700. So I need to know, what do I times 5 by to get 5,700? Now remember, you were allowed a calculator. So in order to work out what to times, we go backwards, which is divide. So 5,700 divided by 5 comes out to be 1,140. And I'm only asked for Daniel's share, so I'm only going to times the 3 by 1140. So 1140 times 3, which gives me that Daniel gets 3,420 pounds. Question B. I hope you're having lots of fruit salad. Fruit is healthy for you. A fruit salad has twice as much raspberries as red currants, 3 times as much strawberries as red currants. So if I've got raspberries, red currants, and strawberries, twice as many raspberries as red currants, so that would be 2 is to 1. 3 times as many strawberries would mean this is 3, because that's 3 times that. Altogether, my total, 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 3 is 6. I need to make 450 grams. So, once again, on my calculator, I'm going to do 450 divided by 6, which is 75. Now I'm going to times each one by 75. Raspberries come out to be 150 grams. Red currants would be raspberries. Always a weird word to spell. 75 grams would be my red currants. And my strawberries, or 3 of them, so 3 lots of 75, is 225 grams of strawberries. Last question. Apologies for the sounds of my washing machine. A recipe for pastry requires 200 grams of flour to make 600 grams of pastry. How many grams of flour need to make 120 grams of pastry? So I'm going to do it the same way. 200 grams of flour makes 600 grams of pastry. So this is my flour, this is my pastry. I need to have 120 grams of pastry. What have I done here? Well, you can see that I haven't multiplied, I've divided. To work out what I've divided, I'm going to divide 600 by 120. So 600 divided by 120 gives me 5. So I've divided this by 5. That means I'm going to divide this by 5. And 200 divided by 5 is 40 grams. And that is my answer.